Good evening, everyone. Guys, am I audible? Yeah, thank you. So, for the last session, we were discussing with how exactly you will be able to configure VPNs, right? And then today, let us discuss about how you can monitor the network as an administrator. So far in the other two modules, we have seen how hackers are trying to perform attacks. Then, as an administrator, what kind of measures will you be able to take to protect your network, right? So, how you can use your the firewall, the UTM technologies, and all, right? So, logically, the next thing is how do you monitor what is happening in the network, right? Because unless you monitor what's happening in the network, you will not be able to know whether is your network functioning all right or is there something wrong, right? So if there is something wrong, you'll only be able to know it once you monitor the network. Say you just did the configuration but you are not doing any kind of monitoring, right? So if you don't do any kind of monitoring, can you understand what is happening in the network? Will you know whether is everything working all right or whether there is something wrong? If there is no monitoring on the network, you will not know it, right? So only when you do monitoring on the network, you will understand what is actually happening there, right? So today we will discuss about like what exactly you have to do as a administrator, right? So that you can know what's happening in the network. And before we discuss that, monitoring this network is not the job of an administrator. Monitoring what is happening in the network, right, is not the job of an administrator. So you'll be having the what do we say like the junior administrators or maybe like the L1 people, right, who is given this task of network monitoring and all, right? So as a cybersecurity admin or maybe as a cybersecurity professional, you are not the one who is going to sit there and monitor what is happening in the network, but you should know how this monitoring works or how things work, right? So now here, before we even discuss about how to monitor, when you speak about a network, you will have some network devices, like say you'll have a router, you will have a firewall, or maybe a UTM based on whatever is configured on the network or whatever is there in your network there. Then you will have some servers, you will have some computers and all this, right? So tell me, as an administrator, if you are asking someone, say you are asking a L1 or a junior, right, to monitor the network, how will they do it? Will they go to each and every system in the network and monitor it manually? So if you have, say, some 100 computers, right, will that person go to all the 100 computers one by one and check what is happening in the network? No, right? So the person, whoever is going to monitor the network, will not be going to each and every system, right, to do the monitoring, right? So that will be a very, very difficult task, right? And in the same way, if you have some switches, routers, firewall, and all, right, even trying to monitor all these devices one by one is not really easy, right? It's not really possible, right? And if you recollect our ASA firewall logs, we saw that even with one single computer in the network and only trying to access two or three web pages, we were getting some thousands of log messages. Now imagine you have few hundreds of computers, right? Maybe some two or three hundred computers. All of those computers are connecting to internet, right? They're all browsing, they're all trying to access something, uploading or downloading and all. Will you be having some thousands of log messages every minute or every second? So you'll be having some thousands of log messages every minute, right? So even if you have like say five people or 10 people, trying to monitor all those log messages manually is a impossible task, right? So here, to monitor what is happening in the network so that we will be able to understand if is everything all right or not, we will need a technology, right, which can collect log messages from all the network resources, right? We will need a technology which can collect log messages from all the network resources and tell us what is happening in the network after analyzing the logs. So the first thing, collect the logs. Right. So the first thing is this technology, whatever we need in the network, should be able to collect all the logs and then analyze all the logs and tell us what is happening in the network. Okay, is it clear? So whatever technology we are looking at, it has to first collect all the logs from various network resources. Then secondly, it has to analyze all the logs and tell us what is happening in the network. So is it clear, guys? What exactly is the requirement for us? Right. So you have a technology which is capable of doing this, collecting all the log messages and also analyzing them. Right. So the technology is called SIM, Security Information and Event Management. SIM, Security Information and Event Management. Right. So this is the technology which is capable of collecting the log messages from various sources and then analyzing all the log messages from these sources. Collect all the messages and then analyze them. After analysis, it will tell us whether if everything is all right or if there is something suspicious that we have to look into. Right. Now, SIM, if you look into the requirements, SIM is not like the other tools what we have seen in the ASA firewall. So in ASA firewall, we were collecting the log messages and then we have used an application which is only capable of analyzing the Cisco logs. But here when I speak about a SIM technology, this particular SIM is not going to collect the log and analyze from only one device. It has to analyze the logs from all different kind of devices. Right. So they may be from different vendors, different type of devices, right? So this particular SIM solution should understand how does your Cisco ASA give the log? How does Storm Shield give the log? How does FortiGate give the log? It should understand how does your DHCP server logs look like? How does your DNS server log look like? Right. So the SIM solution should understand different log format. Right. So one requirement is the SIM solution should understand different kind of log formats. Right. Not only understanding different kind of log formats, it has to receive the log messages and do the analysis. And here, when we speak about analyzing the log messages, there's one specific thing that SIM is supposed to do. It has to perform correlation. It has to perform correlation of all the log messages. So SIM has to perform correlation of all the log messages. Now, what is correlation? So let me give you an example of what is correlation. You are able to view my notepad application, right? Yeah. So here, this message, what you see is the log that is given from the router. So here this router is saying on 16th of, on 11th of January 2021 at 16 hours, there is a HTTP request. Okay, so there are 10 HTTP requests, right? There are 10 HTTP requests coming from 1.1.1.19 IP address to 206.182.201.123. So this is what router is telling us. It is saying that at so and so time period, there are incoming connections, 10 incoming connections, right? From 1.1.1.19 to 206.182.201.123 IP address, right? So looking at this log message, what do you understand as a administrator? So looking at this log message, what do you understand? So who is initiating the request? From which IP address are you getting the request? So this IP address 1.1.1.19 is initiating request. To which IP address? What is our server IP there in the log? So this 1.1.1.19 is trying to access a server with IP address 206.182.201.123 for port 80. So it is a HTTP request, right? And how many requests are coming? So we are receiving 10 requests, right? So by looking at this log message, can we come to a conclusion on this connection, whether it is a genuine connection or it is an attack? No, this is not from internal to external. You don't see any private IPs there, right, in the log. So This connection is not from internal network. Okay, so you say that it is a attack, Sure. Do you all say that it is an attack? Okay, why do you think so? What is the reason? Why do you think it is an attack? Based on the time. Why? Can't a server be accessed at 4:15? Okay, so number of connections. Okay, so uh, there are 10 connections coming. So because of this, you say it is an attack. Do you all agree? Okay. So now uh, let us understand how your ISPs maintain networks, right? So not sure whether you have gone through this sort of discussion at a CCNA level, but now as you're a cybersecurity professional, you'll have to understand few things. Now, generally in CCNA, what did we learn? We say that you have a network, and for this network to reach internet, you will have a router as a gateway, and router is connecting you to internet. That's correct. If your network has to reach internet, it has to be through a router. Yeah. Now, let us speak about ourselves, because what you see in your CCNA part, this is mostly about your enterprise networks, right? So on enterprise network, you will have a business internet plan, you will have a dedicated router, you will have some public IP addresses and all. So what you have done there is okay. But now let us speak about ourselves, end users. Now in your home, you have internet connection, right? From a ISP, right? So ISP gives you internet connection. Now this ISP is also giving internet connection to so many other users, right? Now let's say, for example, this particular ISP is say Airtel or Geo or someone, or maybe Vodafone or someone, right? So ISP, will they give a public IP address or a private IP address to our home users? So in every home, right, ISP is giving you a connection which you'll connect it onto your router. So generally a Wi-Fi router will be connected, right? So what kind of IP address do you think ISP is providing in the home net? Is ISP giving us a private IP or a public IP? Okay, so ISP is giving you a private IP address, right? ISP does not give you a public IP. Now let's say I have some private IP address, something like say 10.00, 62, 63, 64, 65. Now, whenever you try to access internet, maybe you are reaching Google, you are reaching Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever server you're trying to reach, right? The request is initiated with the private IP address, whatever is assigned on your router. Is that correct? Now tell me, with this private IP address as a source, can you directly send the request to internet server? Let's say assume these are four people who are all trying to access Instagram from their mobile app, right? So there are four users who are trying to access Instagram from their mobile application. So with a private IP address as a source, obviously you will not be able to directly speak to Instagram server. So this private IP address has to be converted into a public IP. Is that correct? This private IP address has to be converted into a public IP address. So who does this conversion? Where exactly this conversion is happening now? Okay, so this IP address conversion from private IP to public IP address is happening at the ISP. So ISP will have a router, and on this router, your private IP addresses, all private IP requests coming from the end users are converted into a public IP. Now, does ISP use one public IP address for each home user, or will ISP use one IP address for all home user connections? So will ISP perform a static NAT for each home user connection, or will ISP go with a PAT, that is a port address translation for home user connections? So ISP will never do static NAT, right? If ISP is doing static NAT, ISP can directly give the public IP address on our router itself. So ISP is going with one public IP for all home connections. So now let us move our view from the Instagram server point of view. So you are the administrator who is maintaining Insta server, right? At a given point of time, let's say at exactly 9 a.m., right? You are receiving some 1000 connections, right? You are receiving some 1000 connections from IP address 1.1.1.19. You are receiving 1000 connections from 1.1.1.19. So what would you speak about this 1000 connections coming from this IP? Will you say that this is an attack, or will you say that it is a genuine request? Don't be in a hurry. You are not in a running race. Think, apply your logic, and then tell me the answer. Will you say that these 1000 connections are attacks, or these 1000 connections are genuine? So when you speak about these 1000 connections, they are not attack. They're all genuine connections. What happens if Instagram, YouTube, Google, Facebook, and everyone thinks that these 1000 connections are all attacks? Will we be able to access those services? As a home user, will you and me be able to access YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, or whatever website it is or whatever service it is? No. If those servers assume that this is an attack, we will never be able to access any of those services. Right. So from the same IP address, if you see there are multiple connections coming in, You cannot conclude that these all are because of an attack. You cannot blindly say there is an attack going on and that's the reason I'm seeing this many connections. Is it clear? So now coming back to our log message, is this log telling us something about the connection, whether it is a genuine connection or whether it is an attack? So what do you say, guys? Looking at this log message, do you say that it is a genuine connection or it is an attack? It may not be an attack, so we cannot directly come to a conclusion that this is an attack. It may be genuine connection also. It may be an attack also, right? It may be a genuine connection or it may be an attack, right? So can I say just by looking at the log message from a router, I cannot come to a conclusion whether the incoming sessions are genuine connections or attacks just only by looking at the log messages from a router. I'll not be able to conclude whether it is a genuine connection or it is a attack. Do you agree? So now let me also try to see log messages from some other network device. So I have a log message from routers, from the firewall, and this firewall is also saying from 1.1.1.19 IP address, there are 10 connections to port number 80 on 206.182.201.123. Of course, whatever connections are seen on the router will also be seen on the firewall, right? And again, just by looking at this connection, we will not be able to say whether it is a genuine request or it is an attack, right? So now let us say, I'll also try to look at the log messages from my server, from my web server. So here the web server is saying from 1.1.1.19 IP address, there are 10 connections coming to this particular page on my website, index.html, query is login. So what do you understand by this log message? So what do you understand by this log message? So there are some 10 requests coming for the login page, right? So to the login page of your web server, there are 10 requests coming from this IP 1.1.1.19. So does this say something about the connection, whether it is a genuine connection or whether it is an attack? So unfortunately, even this message will not really tell you that it is a genuine connection or it is an attack, right? So the same example, there are 1000 people who are trying to access their Instagram application, right? Obviously, when you open your Insta application, in the background, your application is trying to perform authentication. It's trying to connect to the server, right? So even looking at this particular log message, we will not be able to say if it is a genuine connection or an attack. Okay, so let us see if we can get log messages from some other resource also. Okay, so I have a log message from the database application which says there are 10 failed authentications on this page index.html query is login for a particular user account called Zoom. So what does this log message tell us? What does this log message tell us? For a user account Zoom, right? There are some 10 login attempts, and unfortunately, all the 10 login attempts were not successful. So, in short, maybe the user has tried 10 different times, right? And there were no successful authentications. So now can I say there is some kind of a brute force attack on this website? Brute force or maybe a dictionary attack, right? So there's some brute force or dictionary attack, right? And there are 10 failed attempts for a user account called Zoo. So this message is telling us clearly there is some login attack, there is some attempt on cracking the password. But if you say, if you only look at the database log, do you understand where exactly this attack is happening from? Where is this attack coming from? When we only look into the database log, we will not be able to see where exactly the attack is originating from, right? But if I take up the log messages from all the resources, from the router, firewall, server, and database and all, right? If I take up log message from all these resources, will I be able to say that from this IP 1.1.1.19, someone is trying to crack the password of user account Zoom on my web server? By looking at log messages from all the resources, can I say there is a password cracking attempt happening from 1.1.1.19? Yes, right. So we'll be able to say that from so and so IP address, there is a password cracking attempt, right, on my web page for a specific user account called Zoo, right? So now what did we actually do to come to a conclusion? Did we see logs from only one particular source, or did we try to see logs from different sources? So when we take the log messages from various sources, right, and we try to see all the log messages at a time. So when we try to analyze all the log messages together, only then we came to a clear understanding of what is happening in the network. Is that correct? So we came to know what's happening in our network only after checking the log messages from all different sources, right, at a time. So we did not process these log messages one by one. Right? So if we try to process all the log messages one by one, we will never be able to see what is happening in our network. Only because we have seen all the log messages together, we have processed them all together, we came to know that on so and so system there is so and so kind of attack happening. This is what you call as log correlation. Log correlation means try to collect log messages from different sources, process them all together so that you understand what's happening at each and every device. Right? So when you collect logs from different sources and you try to analyze them all together, only then you come to a clear understanding of what is happening. Right? So that's what you call as a log correlation. Is it clear? So what this SIM solution does, it takes log from all different sources and analyze them together. So it does correlation. So once it does correlation, if it finds that something is suspicious, there is something wrong, then it will tell you that on so and so system, so and so kind of activity or so and so kind of event is happening. It will only give you that information. It will only tell you that so and so is happening. Then, as an administrator, you have to see what exactly is that issue, what is a problem, right? And how to resolve it. Now, let's say, for example, in the SIM solution, you saw that on a computer 192.168.10.45, there is some malware activity identified. Right. So on 192.168.10.45, some malware activity has been identified. So what will you do as an administrator if malware activity was found? So if some malware activity was found on one of your system, what will you do? So if malware is found, will you inform that information to the system admin team? Tell them that on so and so IP address there is malware infection found. Ask them to disconnect that system from the network and try to analyze what kind of malware it is and if there is any damage to the user data or if there is any damage to the operating system. Will you do that? So there you are trying to isolate that computer from the network, and then you are asking your system admin to go through what all things are present on the system and if there is any virus infection or some other kind of malware infection, you will try to remove that infections, right? Delete those infected files. And you are also asking the system admin team to see if uh, maybe is there any loss of user data or maybe your operating system is correct or what is going wrong with the system, right? So here, that particular malware infection. So the malware infection, what you found on the system is called as an incident. Right. So an incident is something which has gone wrong in the network. Right. Something which went wrong in your network, you call it as a incident. Right. Now, once you identify the incident, you're taking some actions, right? Like what we discussed. You inform this details to system admin team. You are asking them to verify what exactly it is and then try to clear the infections and all. So that activity or the steps that you are trying to take after you identify a incident, you call it as incident response. So incident response is like what are the steps you are going to take after you identify that something is wrong in your network. Right? So after you identify that something is wrong in the network, what are the actions you have taken, or what sort of actions will you take? Right? Now, here if you see in the incident response, say you found some malware. I said you're going to call whom? Are you trying to check that, or you're going to call someone and ask them to check that? If you identify there is a malware infection on the system, you're going to call your system admin team and you are asking them to check what is the issue, right? So incident response is all about trying to identify. So you came to know that there is some problem. Then you try to identify who should be doing this. Say there is a malware infection on the computer. Who will do it? Will you call your router administrator, or will you call your server administrator or the desktop support people? You found some virus infection or some malware infection on a PC. Who will you call? So you'll call your system team, your system admin team, or if you have a dedicated desktop support, you'll call them. You will not call the router or the switch administration, right? You'll not call your network admin team to look into a virus infection. Is that correct? So you don't call some irrelevant person, right? So you call the desktop support or your system admin team, and then you ask them to take care of this malware infection. So incident response is about after you identify that something is wrong in a network or something is wrong in a system, how are you going to deal that particular situation? Who are all the people you are going to involve in dealing that particular situation, right? And what steps you are going to take? So now tell me, can I have a fixed set of incident responses? Can I follow the same incident response procedure every time? You will not be able to follow the same procedure every time, right? So based on what was the incident, you may have to go with a different set of actions. Let's say on one computer, you found a malware infection. On some other computer, there is a ransomware. On some other computer, some unknown application is installed. Right. So you cannot go with the same set of actions for everything. Right. So based on what sort of problem you have identified, you are going to take different steps. Right. Now tell me, what kind of activities would be there? What sort of things can go wrong in a network? So you may have malware infection, you may have a phishing attack, you may have some kind of what do you say, a backdoor, or you may have some kind of maybe a keylogger, right? Or maybe there is some vulnerability if you speak about a server, right? These are the kind of issues, right? What you see on a network. Or maybe yes, there is someone trying to do a DOS attack, right? So do you know what sort of precautions or what sort of activities you have to take when you come across such issues? recollect what we have discussed in the countermeasure part? So if you have some virus infection, what exactly you do? Or maybe say you found some malware, sorry, you found some malware, what is to be done? You found some vulnerability, what is to be done? Did we discuss all this in our countermeasures? So when you come across some problem in your network, right, as a cybersecurity professional or as a cybersecurity admin, right, you are not going to go to each and every system and implement something. You have to guide your system admin team or your network admin team, right, on what they have to do to stop the issue. Okay. So now we were discussing about how you can use a firewall, right, to protect your network. How will you protect a firewall itself? So we were using firewall or a UTM to protect our network. But how will you protect the firewall itself or the UTM itself? Of course, you have to update the latest firmware, right? Whenever there is a new version of firmware available, your firewall or your router, right? Whatever the network device is, you have to update it. Okay. And can I say updating the firmware is same for a firewall, router, switch, or maybe being your PC or a server, updating the latest version of software or the firmware, right? Will it be a common point for all the devices? So it's a common thing for all devices, whether it is a PC or it is a switch or it is a router. Whenever you have some newer version available, right? They will also tell you in this new version what all changes have happened, right? What all issues were fixed. So you can download, you can see what exactly is the issue that they have fixed, and then you are trying to install the newer versions, right? And then when you are discussing about securing a PC, we said using a complex password and also trying to change the passwords frequently, right, will be helpful instead of having the same password over a long period of time. Will it also be true for protecting your firewall, router, UTM, switch, or your servers and all? Yes. Right. So not having the same password everywhere, trying to use a complex password, um, trying to change your passwords on frequent intervals, right? Will be the same countermeasure, whether it is for a computer, my computer, your computer, or whether it is a router, whether it is a server, right? Whether it is a switch, any device, right? So the countermeasures, what we have discussed, right? They are all the same, right? So initially, when we are discussing about the countermeasures, because then we were discussing about the attacks on PCs or attacks on the servers. We said this is how you have to protect your server or you have to protect your PC, right? But even if you speak about other network devices, like say you have your switch, the same thing is true for a switch, same thing is true for a router, right? And when you speak about switch, router, and firewall, can I also say only request coming from my local network should be accepted for administration instead of accepting incoming requests from internet and all. So guys, what do you say? I can configure my router or my switch, right? Or even my firewall and all, saying that only requests coming from LAN network should be accepted for administration. Did we do this in our firewall configurations? Did we define a specific IP address or a specific network and said only this network will have access to the firewall administration? So when we are giving the permissions for AHDM access and all, we did that. So in the same thing, can we also apply it on a router and also on a switch? So guys, can we apply the same logic on a router and also on a switch? Administration request should only be coming from local network, but not from internet. Can we apply that? Nice. Are you able to hear me? Yeah. So the same logic, what we have been discussing with the firewall, right? All those logic will also apply for your router and the switch or any other device, your layer 2 device, layer 3 device, whatever device it is, right? The same logics will be applicable. Okay. So now coming back to our SIM, right? As I said, SIM is supposed to collect log messages from all different devices and tell us what is happening with our network, right? SIM, the initial configuration, that is integrating the SIM into your network, will be done by the administrator. Once you do the integration part, then monitoring the SIM solution is not your task. That will be taken care by the L1 user, as I said, right? But as you have to integrate the SIM solution, right? Let me show you how you can do it, right? SIM solutions generally have very high system requirements, right? Uh, for a simple reason, SIM is expected to take log messages from all different devices and do a correlation in real time, right? So SIM solutions, they are generally demanding very high system resources. I'll give a simple example. If you go with even a SIM solution for a basic network, right? For a basic network, which contains around 10 to 15 devices, right? Means in a small network which has 10 to 15 computers or servers and all, whatever it is, right? So for a 10 to 15 uh, devices network, if you want a SIM solution to collect all the log messages, right? Do a real-time analysis along with the correlation and all, right? Make sure you have a system which is at least having a Xeon processor with 64 GB of RAM, minimum requirement. Xeon processor with a minimum of 64 GB of RAM, right, is a minimum requirement, right, for you to go with this SIM solution, right? SIM is first thing very heavy on system requirement, and even those solutions are very expensive, right? So generally, when you speak about small to medium scale organizations, they don't maintain SIM solution on their own. They don't purchase and maintain a SIM solution on their own, right? Because that would be too expensive for those small to medium scale organizations to maintain. Instead, what they do is they go with SIM as a service, right? They use SIM as a service, right? Now, when you speak about, say, hosting your company's website, there is one way you maintain your own server, host the website, or the second way you go to some provider like GoDaddy, give them your web page and ask them to host it, right? So one is your own hosting, your own hosting. The second is you're going with a service provider, right? In the same fashion, for you to have SIM functionality, if you are a large company, right, with good financial resources and all, you will be able to purchase a SIM solution, maintain it in your network. But let us say you are a small to medium scale company, you'll not have a SIM solution in your own network. You'll go to some third party provider. So they will have the SIM solution in their network. They will maintain the SIM servers and all those, right? And you'll have to pay them maybe on a monthly basis or annual basis, right? So that they will provide you with the log analysis and all. So if you are going with a third party, how exactly the things are? This is your network, right? You collect all the log messages from various sources, right? And then send it to an external SIM server, right? You're going to send it to an external SIM server, right? Now this external SIM server can be in cloud or it can be in some other XYZ provider, right? So whether it is a cloud solution or whether it is a third party who's giving you the SIM solutions, right? For this end user, it's both the same. In your case, all the log messages, right, on your network devices have to be sent to this SIM server, which is on internet. So that particular server will go through all the log messages, do the analysis and tell you what is happening in the net, whether is everything all right or if there is something suspicious. Is it clear so far? For hosting the website on internet, you don't have to register with ISP. If you want to maintain the server in your network, then you have to take public IP address from ISP. You'll have to go to a domain name registrar, purchase a domain name, go to a DNS service provider, ask them to create the DNS records for your domain, and then have the website running on your server. No, you don't want all this. You can directly go to a website hosting provider, create an account there, do the payment. They'll give you a login. You log in there, upload all the web pages, and your website is ready. Okay. Yeah. So now I'll show you how exactly SIM solution, the dashboard looks like, right? Give me a second. So I've given you the ISO image of the SIM solution, right? Which you can use for the installation, right? So I did not give you a ready-made VM. That's because even if I give you a ready-made VM, right, that SIM will only be active for 15 days, right? So using a ISO image, you'll have to install it on your system, right? So uh, when you are installing this SIM on your system, right, if you want to see the proper result, right, give at least 8 GB of RAM for the virtual machine, right? At least 8 GB of RAM for virtual machine, right? So even that 8 GB does not qualify into the minimum system requirements, but anything less than that, your SIM will not even start, right? Okay, so I have installed this SIM solution called Alien Vault OSIM, right? So Alien Vault OSIM. So once you do the installation, right? When you connect to the SIM solution for the first time, so I have used this IP, HTTPS 192.168.10.254, right? So this IP address is a one which is configured on the SIM. So once I connect to that IP address, this is how I'll have the web page which is asking me to create the administrator account and the password. So here it says there is a default administrator account called admin, and it is asking me to give the full name and the password and all. So let me say I'll give the username as say cybersec, password let me say cybersec at 123. So define some user ID and the password for the SIM management account, and then you have to give some email address. So let me say I'll give it as admin at cybersec.com, right? Give the email ID of the administrator and say okay. So now that administrator account will be created and you see the login page. So login into your SIM solution. So once you log into the SIM solution for the first time, it will ask you whether do you want to go with a configuration wizard or not. So you can skip the configuration wizard. It's not mandatory. Okay, so it is asking you like, would you like to share usage statistics and all? I say no, don't share it. So this is the dashboard, right, where you see uh, a graphical view of what's happening or what exactly the SIM solution have identified so far in your network, right? But as of now, you don't have anything because you have just installed the SIM solution, but you did not tell what all systems or what all IP addresses are present in your network, right? So that you have to do under environment, go to asset and group in the environment. So when you go to asset and group, here you can see that your SIM solution has already identified some systems. It has already identified some systems in the network. So it says it has found some IP 192.168.10.1. It has found another IP some 10.10, then some another 10.220, right? So SIM solution will try to see what all IP addresses are available in the network and show you those details, right? So all you need to do is select a specific IP address and then try to define the details of it. So here you can see, you will see a button called action. So click on action and say edit this particular resource. So when you click on edit the resource, these are the options you have. It will ask you what is the asset value, right? So asset value in this alien vault is available on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 means very low priority, 5 means highest priority, right? So let's say this 10.1 is my firewall, so I give the highest priority for it. Then it is asking you whether it is a external asset or internal asset. External asset means something which is outside your network, maybe a server in your data center, right? So that you can take as an external asset. But as of now, this firewall, it is in my local network. So I'll say this is not an external asset. And then it is asking you what is the operating system that's installed on the device. So this is based on FreeBSD. The operating system on your Storm Shield is based on a customized version of FreeBSD. So I say it is FreeBSD. Now, why we are defining this operating system detail is because your SIM solution should get a basic understanding on what kind of log it can expect from this IP address 192.168.10.1. Right. So if we don't even give that information, we don't even mention details about, say, your operating system and all, it will take more time, it will take a longer time for your SIM solution to understand what is this log message, what operating system it might be and all, and then do the processing, right? So the long time it takes for a SIM solution to understand what exactly is your resource, the longer time it takes for you to see the results from that, right? So what we do is we are just trying to help the SIM solution, saying that, see, this is the thing, it has so and so IP, and the operating system is so and so kind of, right? And then you can also say what kind of a device it is, right? So I say that this is a security device, this is a intrusion prevention system, this is a network device, this is also a firewall, right? So I'm defining what kind of a device it is, right? So your SIM will be able to understand that, okay, so this is a IPS device or this is a firewall. So these are the kind of logs or events that I may expect from this device. Save. So once you do that, you see the details what you have defined here are updated, right? And then you can also click on the IP. So it will give you with the more information, right? So here it is saying as of now it has received zero alarms, zero events. So as of now it did not receive anything from the firewall, right? So you can click on any of these services or availability events or anything. And here you'll see something called plugins. Now you'll have to click on plugins, right? And here you'll have to define what exactly is the kind of device it is. If you remember when I'm defining the properties of this IP address 192.168.10.1, I said the operating system is FreeBSD, but Strong Shield is not using a direct version of FreeBSD, right? It has made some changes according to the UTM requirements, right? So we should also tell our SIM solution that do not expect a log message in the same format as what you see in FreeBSD. There will be some changes. So in the plugins, I say edit plugin. And here I am going to say that this is a Storm Shield device. So I say that this is a Storm Shield device and see, it has automatically identified that, okay, so Storm Shield is a network security device. Save it. So you are defining the plugin in which you are saying what sort of a device it is and what kind of logs you may expect, right? So you define that that related plugin will be added into your SIM device or into the SIM solution, right? So is this clear? Once you install the SIM application, how do you create a user account and how do you add your existing IP addresses into the SIM solution? So in the asset and group, you'll see different IP addresses. You'll have to go to each and every IP address and define what is the operating system, what kind of a device it is, right? So that it will be easy for the SIM solution to understand what is that kind of a device. It can do better analysis of the results. So guys, is it clear how you are going to define the details about your resources in SIM? Yes, every device in your network, you have to add it in the SIM solution. Every device that is in your network, you have to add it. So one by one, you'll have to add. Now, when you speak of the SIM solution, right? Uh, Deploying a SIM solution into your network itself is a project, right? So deploying the SIM solution into your network, that itself is a project which is on a minimum scale of 5 to 6 months, right? So SIM is not something like what we do in our say CCN or MCSC. We have a device, we start doing the configuration, 10 minutes, it's done. No, that's not the case. Deploying SIM itself is a project in itself. Okay. So yeah, I think I logged out. So let me log in. So for every resource that is available in the office, you'll have to add all those into the SIM solution, right? So you'll see all those into the environment, right? You'll see all the all the resources which are added in the environment, right? And the next step, what your L1 admin is going to always monitor is not here in the environment. In the environment, this is where, as an administrator, you are defining what all resources are available. Now, to see the log messages which are received by the SIM solution, you go into analysis, security events. You go into analysis, security events. So here in the security events, as you see, it shows you all different kind of activities or all different log messages from uh, your firewall, log messages from your PC, log messages from your server. So all the log messages, whatever is happening in the network, everything will be displayed here in the analysis security event part. Right. In the security event part, it will show you with all these events. Right. So in short, the security events are nothing but log messages. Right. If you click on raw logs, right, see here, it says that for the raw logs and all, right, you'll need to go with uh, their own logger solution, which is again a paid one. So this OSIM is a free version, right? So here in the security events, as I said, you'll be seeing all the log messages, right? Now let's say I'll try to create some incident. I'll see if I can get the SIM solution to process it and show us the result. Okay, in the logs, I can say, show me logs in real time, right? Then let me say I'll try to log in to the firewall. So wantedly, I'll try to give some wrong passwords. So wantedly, I'm giving wrong password. So I'm trying to create a situation that someone is trying to do a brute force on the authentication page, right? Now see, it says there is a brute force identified and it has blocked me. Now here, see this? I have some log messages, right, which are shown in the SIM, right? Yeah, authorization event, right? So when I click on this, okay, I have to go back to the normal one. So in real time, it only shows me that message. So again, I'll have to come back here and see this authorization event. So when I click on this, it shows me everything in detail, right? So who is receiving this message? So 192.168.10.254, which is your SIM solution, it has received the message, right? Now, what sort of a thing is it? See here, your firewall, right? It is saying on 16th of December, so and so time period, your VMSNX0, your firewall is trying to send a message saying that from source IP 192.168.10.10, right, which belongs to a domain zoom.com. Remember, zoom.com is a domain that we have given for authentication in our firewall, right? It says that this particular address is banned for what kind of activity? For authentication, right? Now at this particular time, so and so address has been banned for authentication. Now why it has happened? Why is the firewall banning my 10.10 IP address for authentications? So guys, why did the firewall block me from authentications? Because there is a brute force attack identified and firewall has automatically activated the brute force protection, right? And my IP address has been blocked, right? And that's what you are able to see in the log message in the SIM solution, right? That's what you are able to see in the SIM solution in the log message, right? Is it clear how you will be able to see the log messages here? Now see, this is also giving you the source 192.168.10.10, right? Brute force attempt has been detected and that has been blocked, right? And if you monitor to the right hand side of it, it's also giving you the risk profile. How risky is this event, right? How serious is this particular incident? It is also giving you that, right? Now this we are observing where? In the security events, in the log message. So here you will see the attacks, you will also see normal traffic that is passing through internet and all, everything, right? But if you only want to see what kind of attacks or what kind of alarms have been triggered, then you go into analysis and alarms. In the alarms, you see it will only show you what kind of attacks are happening, right? Now see, from 192.168.10.10, there was an attack identified, right? And that was blocked. And in the same way, let me say, I'll try to access some website Iker. I'll try to see if your IPS was not effective, right? And the attack has successfully executed, right? You don't even see the alarm, right? You'll not even see the alarm. See, SIM is not some magic. SIM is only telling you based on what all information it is able to get from your existing network resources. SIM is just simplifying the process where you don't have to manually go to each and every device and see what is going on. Okay. So if your router or say, not the router, sorry, your firewall or your UTM or your server is unable to identify that this is an attack, you will never see it in the SIM. Okay. So let me try to download some virus file. Okay, so when I click on download the virus, it says my connection has failed. If I go back here, just try to search for the events. Now see, there is a web event, a high risk event. When I click on the view details here, it says from this IP 192.168.10.10, right? There is this request initiated towards 89.238.73.97, right? Then if you look into the details in the under events, it's taking time because, as I said, it needs a lot of resources, and I didn't even give it the minimum required resources, so it's taking time to respond. So anyway, right. So when I click on the incident, then it is now giving me with the clear detail saying that this 192.168.10.10 has tried to connect with 89.239.73.97, which is in Germany, right? And what exactly is the issue? So this system tried to download a virus and it was blocked. So this is what SIM is going to tell us, right? Because an administrator will not be able to monitor all the devices in a network at a time. We are depending on the SIM. SIM will try to collect the log messages from all the devices, analyze them, and shows what is happening in the network. Now, according to what we see in SIM, we'll have to start taking our next steps. Right. So based on whatever we see on the SIM solution, we'll have to start taking our next steps. Okay, so is this clear what actually happens with the SIM? Guys, are you clear with how SIM can take the logs, analyze, and show you the uh, alarms or show you the incidents which are happening in the network? So once you start seeing these incidents, as we already discussed earlier in the incident response, right, you'll have to see uh, who would be the correct person to be included into analyzing this event, right? Or maybe which team would be appropriate to handle this particular incident and fix the issue, right? So this monitoring part will be done by a L1, right? A junior admin, right? So once they monitor that something is wrong, something is suspicious, they'll be reporting it to the administrator, and then finally you come into picture as an administrator. You see what exactly is this issue, what is this problem, and then you take a decision to solve this issue, to fix this issue. Who will be the correct person, or maybe which team will be the appropriate choice to fix this issue? You assign the task to them, ask them to get all the things fixed, right? And once everything is fixed, again that particular system will be back into the network and things will continue, right? Now, have you guys come across something called SOC, Security Operations Center? So even if you are looking into job profiles, they say you have requirements in the SOC, right? So Security Operations Center or SOC jobs, right? So these are the jobs for level one users, right? So even though you are a cybersecurity admin, right? So you have gone through the cybersecurity course and all. Organization will not right away pick you into the security admin team. They'll first take you into the level one, where you only monitor what is happening in the network, right? Report it to the admin, right? So once you get some understanding of what exactly is going on in the network, what sort of requirements are there, then slowly from the SOC part, you will be moving into the security administration part, right? And Harish, as you're asking, there is no automated solution for fixing the issues, right? So you have to understand what is the issue and then you will have to go through that. So these things, identifying the issue and then fixing them, as of now is still manual. And if this is done automatically, right, we people will have to come to the roads. No one will hire you and me. We'll have to start learning something else, maybe civil engineering or mechanical and all, like how mechanical, electrical people are all coming into IT. So now all IT people will have to start going back, right, into some other field. So these things are manual and they should be manual. If they are automated, then we are all guys gone. Right? So is it clear what actually is the SIM solution and how do you work with it? So that's our the third module, how you monitor the network and if something is wrong, you identify that something is wrong, what you have to do, right? So with this, we have completed our course, right? And as I said, by the next week, you will be receiving your exam vouchers, right? I think like you should be getting around 1 month of duration, right, for the voucher, right? So within that 1 month, you'll have to prepare for the exam and you'll have to write your exam. And remember, your exam is only for one attempt, right? So you'll have to clear the exam in one attempt, right? So you'll not be getting a second attempt or third attempt for free, right? So only the first attempt is free. You clear the exam, you'll be certified for lifetime. Okay, any other queries? Exam, in case if you are unable to clear it in the first attempt, it will cost you $550. Yes, whatever we have discussed is enough if you are clear with the concepts and you do the practicals. Also, go through the exam dump questions that I have shared in the Telegram group, right? So that would be okay for you to clear the exam. Okay, any other queries? Uh, that's not part of our this thing. It's only like a read up, right? So that is not part of the actual course curriculum. Forensics is a completely different field, right? Not into the cybersecurity. When it comes to the job roles, you can start from the basic SOC, or you can apply for level 1 or level 2 cybersecurity administrators, network auditors, penetration testers, security administrators. Yes, you'll be able to apply for SOC job positions with the CSP certificate. Uh, Basically speaking, for SOC, CSP would be like overqualified. But generally, companies they hire in this particular way. They first hire it for SOC. Once you gather the basic experience and all, then they'll move you into the security field. So unless you have some 4 years or 5 years of experience, they don't directly take you into the security stream. So jobs are available all over India and also in other nations. The sample resumes are also there in the Google Drive where I shared this virtual missions and all. There's no separate link, Mr. Bright. The Google Drive link which I have shared, right, for the second and third modules. So there itself you'll have all those. See, basic salary, it depends on the company and what actually they are expecting from you and based on your skill set. So you can expect somewhere around 3 to 3.2 lakhs as a basic package per annum, right, for a fresher. And again, as I said, depending on the organization and their requirements. You can copy the links for this lab manual and the material. After you go with CSP, then the next thing would be like some cloud services or cloud security, right? Or you can go into the forensic part, into the digital forensics. Okay, so prepare well for the exam. All the best for your exam, right? So with this, we are done with our course, right? So thank you all. And when you are doing the practical, if you are facing some difficulty, right, you can give me a message in WhatsApp, right? I'll be able to check and help you out. Thank you.